Hello, hello, hello. We are back. We are doing a match preview for Orlando City versus Sporting Kansas City. The game is going to be Sunday, September 13th. Sporting Kansas City is fifth in the West with 41 points. Their form is okay. They have a win, 3 losses, and a draw, so I say it's okay because it's much better than ours. They only have 3 road wins all season. And with that said, we'll get into match preview. Ron is with us as usual. Say hello, Ron.
Hey guys.
And we have a very special guest this week. For some of you who followed the team during the USL days, we have Jamie Watson. Say hello, Jamie.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming on. So, Jamie found me on Twitter from retweets, and we just got talking, and we got him on match preview. So I'm, really honored that you would take your time out of your day to come on my little fan channel. So that's awesome. But so as all of you should know, and if you don't know, then I'm just gonna take a shot at you. You're not a great fan. Dom Dwyer leads Kansas City with 9 goals, and he used to be, a Lion, and he said at one point that Orlando is his spiritual home, so I'm hoping Jamie can maybe talk to us about Dom a little bit. And they also have Benny Feilhaber, who has 8 goals and 13 assists. Definitely a player to be reckoned with. They have a Orlando local, Graham Zusi. I think he's from Winter Springs, or I don't know, somewhere out there. He's a designated player. A U.S. international. He has 4 assists, and their other designated player is Matt Bessler. He just came back from injury last week, I believe, and he's also a U.S. international. So that's just some basics about Sporting Kansas City. They play a 4-3-3, and Amobi Akugo is injured. So he left us for them in a new start, and now he's out. So, with that said, we'll get going. Jamie, I'll start with you in Sporting Kansas City. You wanted to come on for this game because you said you knew some of them personally. Who do you know? How do you think they'll play against us? And what kind of form are your friends in?
Well, I mean, I know several of the guys. We actually had a bunch of the guys come on the team when we were still with USL, and there was the affiliation with Sporting Kansas City. So guys like Kevin Ellis used to come for games here and there. John Kempen, obviously, there was a forward that used to come. He played in the championship game. I don't know, kind of spoke funny. I don't remember his name. Oh, Dom Dwyer, that guy, good buddy of mine. Obviously throughout the years, you kind of get to know everybody. It's a small community, so I bumped into Graham Zusi one night working out in the off season at I think like Lifetime Fitness in Longwood or something like that. So you kind of get to know, and Jacob Peterson, I grew up playing with the youth national team. So we actually played Kansas City in preseason with Minnesota, so kind of know a bunch of the guys. But man, Sporting Kansas City is one of my favorite teams to watch in MLS. I love the way that they play. I love the attacking style that Peter Vermees plays. I think they have the right fit of players in there. And Benny, another guy I know, I think he is one of the cogs to that central midfielder that makes the whole team tick. And it's easy to say that, right, because he's one of the guys that stands out immediately. But from a player side, I really appreciate his game, and I think he's one of the guys that really this game hinges on and how he does for Sporting Kansas City.
What do you think Orlando City needs to do to stop Feilhaber?
I think you've got to close down space on him because he's a player with any sort of time and space. He can pick you apart. He's that good. He can do it when he doesn't have time and space. Now imagine if you give him half a second to think. He can be twice as deadly. So that's going to be the first thing. You've got to match the pace and tempo that they play. But of all the teams in MLS that Orlando match up well against, I think it's going to be Sporting Kansas City because I think there's more similarities than there are differences to their games. And I think a team like Orlando City does better against teams that try to come out and play the way Kansas City does. And I think historically you've always kind of seen that with Orlando, that the harder games are the teams that play almost uglier soccer, that dump it long, that try to just outmuscle you, be more physical. When teams try to actually play against Orlando City, that's when they do better, and that's when they shine. And Kansas City is a team that fancies themselves to play good soccer. So I think that this is two teams that want to play the right way, want it to be attractive, want it to be on the ground, good movement, a lot of movement off the ball, sharp passing. And I think it's going to be a game where both teams could almost even each other out in the fact of the way they play, and the first team that makes a mistake and the other one punish them could be the difference in this game. I don't see very much separating these teams, and I think that's how the game will kind of play out on Sunday.
I really like the point you said about Orlando playing better against the teams that like to play more attractive soccer, because you can see how well they match up with a team like Columbus. Columbus is kind of very similar to Orlando City, and they love to attack and they love to keep the ball on the ground. So I think that's a good point. And they've struggled with the teams that kind of just sit back and counter, like a Chicago, that'll just kind of wait you out and use speed to hit you when you're vulnerable. So I think that was a good point. You agree with that, Sam?
I absolutely agree with that. I think we do match up well with Columbus, and that we don't match up well against Chicago. You know, Chicago is one of the worst teams in MLS, but they seem to always find a point or three against us. And Columbus is, you know, allegedly one of the better teams, and we fared pretty well against them. And, you know, when you first even just mentioned Columbus, my stomach cringed a little. I hate Columbus at this point. But that's just, you know, it's whatever. We played some chippy games against them. As far as Orlando City is concerned, we, in my opinion, I think we're going to be out Kaká and Seren. And before we started this, Ron told me that Corey Ash is listed as doubtful as well. So, you know, I think our back line is going to be typical Ramos, Colin, Bowden, Ramen. Listen, I'm off today. Ramos, Colin, Mateos, and Bowden. I think our center defensive mids are going to be Carrasco and Higuita, even though I'm personally kind of overwatching Carrasco. I'd rather see Estrella get some minutes and, you know, see what we have with him as a player. I think we see Winter on the right. I have no idea who we see on the left. I think Ribeiro will be in Kaká's spot because he will be out, and Laren will be up top. So I think that's the lineup we'll see. Ron, what do you think about our lineup this week?
I think you hit it pretty spot on. You might see Carlos Rivas on the left. I'd hope. They got to get him minutes. He's got a promising future. He creates a lot of havoc when he's on the field, even if he's not scoring goals. So I think they're gonna play Laren. They want to get Laren the record. So I think at some point they will shut down Laren as well this year. But I hope Pedro Ribeiro gets to play in the attacking mid role. Since Kaká, and they weren't listed as doubtful, but they're listed as day-to-day, but it doesn't look promising for Kaká, Seren, or Corey Ash. And speaking of Corey Ash, correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, did you guys both were at UNC at the same time?
Yep, and we were at the U17 program down in Bradenton at IMG together, so Corey's a good buddy of mine. So
cool. I was wondering if you were close friends or just teammates or not. So.
I love that guy. I've known that's my guy since day one right there.
Yeah, Corey's been. I really loved when he came over from Houston. He's been the consummate pro, and he'll play left back or right back. He's so versatile, and he was probably one of their best pickups in the transfer window. I've really enjoyed watching him play.
Yeah, I think he's done very well for himself, and he's made a great career out of it. He plays to his strengths very well. He knows who he is as a player. He's confident in what he does, and I think that shows. He plays much bigger than his size. We used to call him Poco, meaning little, obviously. I love that guy. We've got a ton of nicknames for that guy from back in the day, but man, he deserved to be an all-star. I think that first time I see him, I'm going to give him a big hug and tell him, you know, because I haven't seen him in years, man, and tell him how proud I am of his career. He's done an amazing job with it. And I'm excited to see what he's going to do now here in Orlando.
All right, well, I think he's been the best pickup easily that we made in the transfer window. I appreciate Winter's pace and work rate, but, you know, I think we needed some goals out of that spot, and he's definitely not doing that for us. And I have no comment about Mateos. So, Jamie, can you just tell us a quick Corey Ash story, just something, you know, that a fan wouldn't know otherwise, maybe from UNC, or even if you want to talk about it from Bradenton, just, you know, Ron mentions Corey Ash, so, like, what story, like, pops out in your head first?
Ones that I can actually say while being recorded. there's a different couple stories I'll tell after a couple of years. But we used to always call Corey. We used to call him Tommy Tough Nuts because when we were younger, he used to get on the field and Tommy would come out if he'd get into a tackle with somebody and he'd bow up and get real big, and then you'd hear everybody on our team screaming Tommy. And he was great, man. I could go on and on with stories about him, but that's one of my favorite ones. I always think of him, and I always think of Tommy whenever I hear him. I love that. It's one of my favorite stories. He'll get a smile as big as mine whenever he hears this one.
All right, great. And so we'll just go back to the preview, and then we'll jump into fan questions. Ron, what do you think the key matchup is this week? I know Jamie's already talked about what we need to do to stop Phil Halber, but what about maybe for Orlando? What do we need to do to penetrate Kansas City's defense and maybe pull out a point or three?
Well, we're going to have to get the ball. We haven't had much of the ball the past 6 weeks. And earlier in the season, the passing game and the possession was all there. I thought Orlando City could match up against any team in the league in a possession game and kind of dictating the pace of things. But lately, it just hasn't been there. And whether that's been players missing, especially guys like Kaká, and if Kaká is out this week, I really don't know how they're going to be able to attack Kansas City unless they kind of fall back into a shell and try to hit them on the counterattack. But Orlando City's not really great at that. But if we can get Pedro Ribeiro in the center attacking mid role, he and Laren can almost provide like two players that can have some hold up play up there to keep the ball for a little bit longer and let the players get up the field, because I do imagine Kansas City will have Orlando City pinned back for probably long stretches of the match. So they're just going to have to play tough defensively, limit their mistakes, and then when they get forward, at some point we're going to have to take some shots, because I think we've had about 6 shots on goal in the past 6 games. So that's not going to cut it as far as if you want to get 3 points. So I would like to hopefully we get to see Ribeiro and Laren on the field together, and if you have Rivas up there, then you might have someone who can get up there and support and make a run in behind the defense, because that's what this team really lacks. They rarely get behind a defense, and it's usually just left up to Kyle Laren to pull something out of his locker.
And same question to you, Jamie.
I feel that the biggest key here is which team can win the battle in the middle of the field with the 3. That's why both teams play the way that they do, is to get that extra number in the middle of the field and kind of control the possession. Like I alluded to earlier, these two teams play very similarly. So the team that can win the midfield battle with a 3-on-3 in there, because normally these teams are playing against 4-4-2s, right? So you have an extra guy in the middle. That's why a lot of the times you see this extra possession through the middle of the field, because or emphasis on trying to win that each week is because there's that extra guy in the middle at all times. Now you're playing an even number game in the middle. So who can be more dynamic, who can move off the ball, find themselves in good spaces. And then the key in this one is the outside backs pushing on, because both teams want to do it on both sides. So if you got Sinovic on the left and Chance Myers, let's say, on the right, pushing forward, pinning Orlando City back, well then, Orlando's going to be pinned back and Kansas City's going to keep possession higher up the field. But if you can get Ramos and Luke Bowden up the field higher under possession, pinning those two player backs, it's almost as if like you got 2 teams that want to play the same way, and whoever can do it first or whoever can be more effective at doing it will have the other one on their heels, because the strength is also the weakness for both of these teams. When Orlando City can play the way that Adrian wants them to play and has done a masterful job of getting everyone to buy into, that's what's going to cause Kansas City to not play the way that they do, that Peter Vermees has done to get them to play the way they do, and it's going to cause them their game plan to come undone. Well, vice versa for Orlando. So whoever does a better job of winning that 3v3 in the middle and getting their outside backs involved, which, again, if it's Rivas on the left or the guy right mid, the new guy I'm thinking
Winter.
On. Winter, yes, Winter. If they can get Winter up high too, it's one and the same really, and whoever can do it better and whoever can be more effective at it, I think wins the game.
All right. And Ron, was there any other general questions that you wanted to talk about this week?
For Jamie, not really much. I was going over Jamie's bio a little bit, and I saw that his favorite lunch meat is turkey, which I just don't agree with. at all. Um, is that still true? I don't know. I saw that on the Minnesota website.
I'll tell you what, I've never taken one of those profiles ever seriously in my life. So I think the guy next to me was eating a turkey sandwich. So that's probably why I said it.
Yeah, I saw that your worst injury was like a third-degree paper cut. So I thought, yeah, he's probably just messing around with this thing.
I had a hell of a paper cut on my thumb that day, and next thing you know, I look down and there it is. Never mind this ACL thing I got going.
Right.
That one was definitely worse. And you know another thing too that Ron, when you were talking, something that was sparked in my head immediately, talking about maybe why Orlando City hasn't been um, as successful going forward in keeping possession deeper in an opponent's third. That hasn't been talked about in a while because a player that hasn't been mentioned in a while because he hasn't been able to play for a while is Kevin Molino. I think you really find how dynamic and how good of a player Kevin Molino is and how well that he worked with Kaká to create that possession higher in the field in and around the opponent's 18s because you haven't seen it in 4 or 5 months now, right? So it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. You forget it. Well, I guarantee you, the front office in Orlando is smart enough to know that this season is very different if Kevin Molino doesn't get hurt, if he doesn't tear his knee there. You've got a lot of injuries, a lot of suspensions that have happened this year, right, wrong, or indifferent, because some of those I've watched and had to chuckle over of why in the world Kyle Laring gets a red card when he does. But smartest appeal in MLS history, I think, out of Phil Rollins, even though they lost the game. I was joking on Twitter when Kyle scored in New York. I said, Phil probably feels like a genius. And then he scored again, and I said, Phil feels like twice as smart. And then he scored his third goal for hat trick, and I think I just put Phil Rollins for president or something like that. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, they lost. But, I think that one thing for me that, I don't get much into it on Twitter with the controversy and taking stances on stuff, and I won't get too much into it here. But, yes, Orlando's had a bad run of form lately. But people calling for Adrian's head, come on. Like, you have got to be kidding me, right? This is the guy that has the best record to 100 games as a professional in American history, soccer history, right? So he's obviously got a proven track record. You're talking about a first-year MLS team working under MLS guidelines and restrictions and salary caps and getting players that are not in other teams' top 14 for an expansion draft while competing with another team, while trying to sell your left shoe for allocation money to go buy a player that you want, that you've done a great job of scouting, that wants to be there. Then you got to deal with discovery claims and all this stuff and the workings of MLS. There's so much more that goes on to it that people don't know. And, things have obviously not gone well results-wise as of late. But anyone that calls for Adrian Head, it makes me laugh and immediately almost makes me discredit a little bit, because there's so much that has gone into building what Orlando City is, and Adrian has been that linchpin, and Phil too, to be fair, credit where credit's due. Those guys have established the club that they are. And I like to pose the question to this, and it's in my head, and maybe I should say this, maybe I shouldn't say it. If you want Adrian out, who do you think built the way Orlando City is from top to bottom? You know what I mean? From the coaching side, from the playing side. The entire identity of Orlando City, from the kids that are this big, that's not much shorter than me, all the way on up to the first team, they play a certain way of style of play in a certain way because that's the way Adrian plays. And honestly, it's so simple but so good. Like, it always gives you a couple different options of passing, the movement. Everybody understands what they're supposed to do on the field. It's the way the game should be taught to young kids. And if you remove him and you come and you switch all of that, I don't know. I mean, I personally wouldn't want to see an Orlando City not coached by Adrian Heath. I think that would be stupid. So I'm off my soapbox. There's my rant. I think that's I think it's absolutely ludicrous to call for his head. I think that, and I'll pose another question: who do you think would do a better job? Who do you think can come in and implement a style and an identity and a philosophy better than what Adrian's done?
I don't think anybody could with the current crop of players they have. It's just,
and you're talking about a first team in MLS. The level of quality in MLS is obviously the highest it's ever been, and you're dealing with so many I want to say it's like you're building a team. You're trying to write out your master plan, but you've got these handcuffs, right, with all the restrictions and everything that comes with MLS. You've got a little bit of room to wiggle and make this, but you can't do it all in 1 year. It takes a couple of years. There's growing pains with it, and I think they've done a very good job so far. I would say great because obviously I think it's almost impossible to be great as an expansion team nowadays in MLS. So I think that you just got to keep the faith and understand that this process works. And it's just going to take time, and it's just going to get better and better.
I mean, I agree with you. I don't think there's anybody that we should go with other than Heath. I think that you do got to let Heath build, and maybe in a couple of years, if we're experiencing the same results that we're experiencing now, you get a change. But that's just my general sentiments. Ron?
No, I mean it's an expansion process. I'd put more blame on probably the general manager if you had to make somebody's head roll. But like you said, it's an expansion team. It's always going to be tough, and we'll see how this process works through year 2 or year 3. But Heath does play an aesthetically pleasing style. He's been completely handcuffed by major injuries and whatnot. And back to the Kevin Molino thing, I remember complaining in the beginning of the year. We're like, gosh, this team's passing too much. They're controlling the ball too much, and now we just wish we could get the ball. But, yeah, it's so Kevin Molino we thought he wasn't even playing very well at the beginning of the season, but once he was gone, it was like you kind of that whole saying, like you realize what you have once you don't have it anymore or something like that. So yeah, that loss to Kevin Molino it really disrupted everything and has prohibited the team from probably playing like Heath wants them to play for the most part.
Well, yeah, I don't think prohibited, but I definitely agree with you that it's definitely hindered it because I think you've got other good players, right, that can step in, and the system's built to have players step in. But I think the team has proven that this year would have been better with him in it than without him. So I agree with you on that one, Ron, yeah.
I think the Shea injury kind of has the same effect. I mean, I dogged Breck Shea for being out of form when he was here. We moved him around, and the national team had him playing somewhere. Then he got injured. Then he played. Then he got the long-term injury. So I think if we had Shea all year, that the effect is equal as to Molino because I personally think we lack anybody who can directly attack a defense, and I think Breck Shea obviously can do that at this level. He was banged up at Stoke and never did it, but at Dallas, he was pretty straightforward, and he had some goals and some assists there and a decent record. I mean, enough to go to England. So I think that's also an injury that hurt us a lot this year, but. That's just, in my opinion. At this time, we should probably jump into match preview. We should do the predictions. Jamie, be our guest and go first. Your score prediction for the game.
I think this could be, like we talked about earlier, a game that either team could win. And I'm not going to be biased and say that there's no other way that Orlando City could, win this game or lose this game one way or another just because of my past affiliation. I think that this game genuinely could go either way. I don't think a score line. I think either way a team wins by 1 goal, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to say that Orlando wins 2-1, and I think that Kyle Larin gets a goal. I think I don't think necessarily everybody's sitting there. The game plan is all X's point to Kyle to get him a goal to get the record, but I think just the style of play, the system of play is going to get him chances in and around the box. And I think Rivero gets one if he does start and he gets his chance to play. I like him. I wasn't sure of him at first. I'll be completely honest. I didn't know much about him, but watching him play, he's such a physical presence. He's smart. He's clever. He makes finishes look easy too. I'm a fan of him now, and I think those two guys, obviously the easy choice to do those guys, but I think that those two guys could get in and score. And so 2-1, I'm going to call that.
All right, Ron?
I'm going to go 2-1, but I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go Sporting KC's way. I think it's hard to imagine this team scoring. I mean, Kaká and Kyle Larin, I don't know what the exact number, but they probably have 80-85% of the goals, if not more. So it's hard to imagine this team doing much without Kaká. We've seen in the past that games haven't really gone very well. And if you look at what the team had in New England, you might see a very similar team this week. And And although this game will be at home, and that's why I think Orlando City will score a goal, I almost think there's just some statistical inevitability that they have to score a goal at some point. The ball is going to cross the line at some point. So I hope it's Laird. I want to get the record broken. I don't want to get into the last couple games of the season. We're still searching for this record. But I think SKC's got a lot to play for. And I don't know that Orlando City has as much to play for as SKC. So until I see this team play a little better than they have the past 6, almost 8 weeks now. If you throw out the Columbus game, it's pretty much been a disaster for 2 months. I'm just going to need to see something more before I predict them to win. So 2-1 SKC.
I think this is a really emotional game for Orlando City, for the fans who are diehards, for Dwyer coming back, and for fans who are not diehards. Everybody knows Zusi's from the area, so I think the Citrus Bowl will be packed. I don't think the fans are ever the question as far as on-the-field play goes. 1 win in the last 11. Like Ron said, not a good game since Columbus. So I don't see Orlando City winning. I think it's another disappointing home loss to the Citrus Bowl. And I think Dom Dwyer scores 1 goal, doesn't celebrate, 1-0 Sporting Kansas City.
If Dom scores and celebrates, I'm going to absolutely bash him on my text message. I'll probably do it online. I'll probably put it out there for everyone to see. But I do hope the fans do a little something for Dom and I imagine they will to show their appreciation, because Dom has a big imprint on the club, and he's a part of the fabric of the club. I think what he did and what he achieved in his time there, I think was remarkable for him. I think it was remarkable for the club and the fans. I think he's a special player, he's a special guy. I think it was easy to. He's easy to like, isn't he? You know what I mean? He's got the personality, but the way he plays and the effort he puts in, whether he scores or not, you can always walk off going, yeah, he put a shift in. He gave it what he had tonight, I'll go out on a limb and say he's probably my favorite, attacking player that I've ever played with. I always say Luke Bowden was one of my favorite players to play on the left side with, defensive wise, but going forward, Dom. We had a good understanding going together, and I really enjoyed playing with him. So I hope he scores. I hope he scores in a losing effort. I hope he doesn't celebrate, and I hope the fans really show appreciation for him and what he did, because he's a huge part of the history of the club, and you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've come from. That's what I always kind of say.
Well, I'm glad that you you chimed in there, because John Schemer from Orlando Locos, that was his question for you. Do you think Dom will celebrate if he scores? So first fan question out of the way, and with that said, I think Ron's probably got to get ready for City Soccer Talk Live. So we'll let Ron go, and
I just have one more question for Jamie. Before I go, I think you tweeted earlier in the year, Jamie, that you're 2 for 2 in getting clubs promoted. So my question though is I guess maybe more with Minnesota this year. When that happens, does the mindset, or like when that announcement is made, does the mindset of the team change? Does the way the front office does things change, or is it just business as usual around Minnesota?
No, it definitely changes. You'd be naive to say it doesn't. The front office changes because it normally grows in size. You're doing a lot of groundwork to prepare to get to that big moment, like what Orlando City had to have 60,000 in the stands. That doesn't happen just by saying we've got an MLS team now, so it does take time and effort by front office, by players, by fans. It takes everybody's a piece to the puzzle, aren't they? Some are corner pieces, and some are pieces that could still be the puzzle if you threw them away, right? So I think that everyone has a part to it though, and I think that there's a lot of similarities. What's going on here is what did in Orlando leading up to it. I'm excited to be a part of the process. I'm a little bit more familiar with it, now, and seeing how it's done. So, whatever piece of the puzzle I am up here, I don't know what that is, but I just try to be it. And, it's exciting because I know where it's going. I've seen it, and I'm excited for people up here and the organization up here to get to experience it too, because there are a lot of special people involved up here.
All right. Good. All good, Ron?
Thanks for talking with me, Jamie, and then good luck with you and your teammates with Carolina coming to town this weekend, I guess. So
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
All right, good luck. See you guys.
All right. Thanks again, Ron. All right. Well, now it's just Jamie and I got some fan questions. I know he's probably got to get moving too in a minute to rehab, so we'll try to power through these questions. Jamie, John Sheemer, that was his first question. You answered that. You don't think Dom will celebrate, and I have.
And if he does, I'm gonna be so mad at him. I'm gonna tell him you're an idiot. What are you doing? He knows he's got too much respect for the game in Orlando. You won't see it. I'll put money on it.
Okay, awesome. Because I said on Twitter, I hope that the supporters groups get a welcome home Dom Tifo or something along like that. I think we'll see it. I'm not sure. I could maybe ask around, but anyway.
Who wants a lion? Always a lion. I like that shot.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be a really good one. And all right, so we got a couple Facebook questions, a couple Twitter questions, and an Instagram question. Facebook first. Jerry Daniels wants to know, how is your injury and rehab going?
Yeah, it's getting better. I'm about 4 months out now, so I'm jogging. Getting there. It's a long one. It sucks, but at the same time, made the most of it. My wife was pregnant. We just had a baby on Monday, so I got to spend a little bit more time with my little guy. We named him Cade Legend. So Cade Legend Watson. Now I'm spending time with him and hanging out with him and my wife, and it's been awesome, man.
Well, I've congratulated you on Twitter, so I guess now in virtual person, I'll say congratulations. Not face to face, but and Angela Charity from Facebook also wanted to know about the injury, so you answered that for her. She wanted me to tell you that she thinks you're amazing, and her last question, which was just a joke, she made sure she wanted to know if you'd marry her. So, I think he's called for, but.
Well, Angela, I think you're awesome, man. If I wasn't, we'd have to talk about it, but I'm happily taken.
All right. And then now my good friend in Ruckus Kappa, Wade Hampton, he had a couple questions for you. I think he gave me like 5. I'm not going to ask you all of them, but I'll ask you the best ones in my opinion. He wants to know, do you miss Orlando City, and would you have wanted to be a part of the inaugural season if the opportunity was afforded to you?
Yeah, of course I miss Orlando. That's where I consider home. I definitely do not stick around in the off season here in Minnesota. I have no interest in finding out what 8 feet of snow and -40 looks like. So we always head back to Orlando in the off season. So I do love it there. There's who wouldn't have wanted to be a part of it from a player standpoint. I think the 60,000 people in the stands for the first game would have wanted to be down on the field looking up at it, and so, of course that would have been great to be a part of, but I'm very happy where I'm at now, and things, went down the road that they did, and, and it's been great. It's been an awesome experience here, and I've enjoyed every minute. I love the guys here. I love the organization. So, yeah, life in soccer is all coulda, shoulda, wouldas, and if I get caught up thinking about that, I'm going to miss out on the wonderful opportunity I have here. So try not to do that,
Yeah, for sure. And Wade's other question that I wanted to share, which I thought was a really good question, and unsoccer related actually. He wants to know, what's your favorite place to eat in Orlando?
Oh, good question. What do I miss the most? I'm gonna end up giving a bunch of shout outs here, a bunch of good plugs here. I loved Black Bean Deli. That was one of my favorite places. Yeah, you like that? That's a
It's
good
right
one.
by my house. I go there all the time.
Oh,
Oh,
I paid the light bill there, I think, several months now. How many times I've gone there?
Shout out to Carly, the manager. You're my girl. You're going to be invited to my wedding, so look out for that. All right, sorry.
I should have invited Carly to my wedding to get a bunch of empanadas catered to it. That was the best, man. I missed that. My favorite spot. It was my absolute favorite. We actually had, my wife and I had our rehearsal dinner for the wedding at Francesco's on 1792. Man, it's a Francesco's restaurant. It's unbelievable Italian place. It's literally the best pasta, the best Italian I've ever had in my entire life. If you go to one place, date spot, take a girl there. That's where you want to go.
All right. I just wrote that down, by the way, because I live on 17.
You should, and everyone watching should. Francesco, and tell the head chef Francesco Aiello I said what's up. Tell him I sent you, and he better take care of you. He always does.
Haha, for sure. All right, and next question from Instagram, Mr. Wolf Park wants to know. I think we already answered this. So Molina will probably be the answer, but he wants to know what would Orlando City need to do to turn around the bad losing streak, and what would the one key be for you?
Confidence, I think, is the biggest key. I don't think that I don't think that needs to get beaten down by the players, and I think maybe everyone's a little bit down on themselves, and you can see how it happens. But if that changes, I think that's the biggest thing. And then, yeah, like we said earlier, I'm interested what it would have been like if Kevin Molina was playing. But if injuries don't happen, Luke Bowden doesn't get to come in and have the year he's having. You know what I mean? He probably would have been still in that role if Breck didn't get hurt of backing up. And I've said it. I think Luke is one of the best players when we were outside MLS. One of the best players outside MLS that deserve to be there, and I could be happier for him that he's getting a chance to play. And he's an unbelievable, great player. One of the best, like I said earlier, the best defender I've ever played with. In combination play and stuff going forward. And so, yeah, I mean, coulda, shoulda, woulda again. What would have been like
Yeah,
if Kevin didn't play? What if Breck didn't get hurt? What if Luke never got a chance to shine? What if some of these other players didn't get a chance? What if Amobi worked out as the player they had hoped to when he didn't get to see Hagita in there? You know
yeah,
what I mean? What if I mean, you could go through and say a whole bunch of things, and what if Ricketts would have been stood on his head and played so amazing, and then when
no,
Tally Hall got better,
yeah.
he wouldn't have started, and we wouldn't have got to see this amazing performance that Tally Hall has been putting on, and he just never quite. There's so many different ways he can go, but I think it's played out the way it was meant to, and I think that it's been cool to see the opportunities that some guys have taken from it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I'm glad you just talked about Luke, because that was going to be my question to you. When I had Dennis on, maybe against Red Bulls, was maybe about 6 or 7 weeks ago. He told me that Luke Bowden loved to play two touch, and that he was always trying to play two touch nonstop. So, do you have maybe a story about you and Luke getting into it on two touch, or is there anything else about Bowden that you'd want to share?
I mean, Luke's an unbelievable guy. I mean, he was a guy that had at our wedding. I mean, he's a guy I still keep in touch with all the time. And when he scored his goal against Toronto, I couldn't get
He's
to my
sick.
phone fast enough to text him and
Yeah,
tell him how much did that cost for him to have the goalie push that to the upper 90 and make it look a lot better than it was.
yeah, yeah. That was
I love
sick.
the guy, but Luke is. Luke's a wonderful professional. Genuinely cares about what he does and about himself, and he's. It's funny because when Luke came in, he was probably like our fourth string center midfielder behind in 2011 behind Lawrence Olam, Jordani Alvarez. Who else? There's somebody else in the middle, but Luke was never going to see the field at center midfielder because he was still so raw and young, and we had these Lawrence and Jordani our first year were amazing, right? And then Jack Chainer gets hurt, and Luke, with a little bit of insight from coach, says, well, I can slide out there, and coach is like, let's try you out there. He goes and he's the best player on the field. We played I think it may have been New York FC or something like that. Not the same one now, obviously
Yeah.
NYCFC, but like they were coached by Paul Shaw, who's now obviously one of the head guys with the youth team in Orlando, and former U23 coach, I believe. But anyways, I mean, this is throwback to the first year, and we played in New York and we won on the road. And Luke was the hands down best player on the field that night, and everyone was looking around going, "There's your one off." They say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you did so well. You're gonna go back to center mid." And he was kind of like, "I think I like it out here." And he stayed, and he progressed, and he's developed, and he's worked at his craft, and he's always wanted to play two touch. I don't think I've ever lost to him. I don't know what he would tell you if you asked him that question. But that guy hit the growth and the pattern and the flight trajectory his career has taken off to is immense. And I still think the ceiling is way further in the distance for him. I think he's got a lot of room to grow, and I think he's going to be around for a very long time.
All right, and last two Twitter questions, all over Twitter. So I got to get these out, and then I know you got to go. Daguru9 wants to know: would you be open to returning to Orlando City in any way, whether it be coach, play-by-play commentator anywhere in the media, or maybe a player if that was an opportunity that the team presented?
I mean, it's like I said when I talked to Paul with I'm drawing a blank on the newspaper there.
The Sentinel?
Yes. Jeez, he's gonna kill me for that one. Uh, you never say never in football, and he asked me if I would ever come back, and what the return is, and I don't know where that's gonna go. I don't know if Phil and Adrian ever see me in their plans, or Flavio would ever see me there. But I'm here with Minnesota. I'm enjoying it. I don't want to say anything that I shouldn't to discredit what I have here, because I am thankful and appreciative of the opportunity I have here. But if that opportunity ever presented itself, that's something that we'd have to see where those conversations led to.
Yeah. That was my question for Dennis when I had him on, and his answer was almost verbatim, word for word, to yours. So, I don't know if you saw that or not, and you're just copying. No, I'm just.
No, I didn't. I didn't actually.
I'm just messing with you.
I turned that interview off. Dennis put me to sleep. He was boring. Just kidding. I love Chinny.
Dennis, if you
I miss
see
that
that,
guy.
there you go. And then so last question from Chris. Orlando County SC is his Twitter handle, and he says, do you feel like he personally does that if you were on the 2014 USL roster, would you guys have repeated as champions?
Good question. I still can't believe they didn't win that year. I think everybody's still trying to figure out how that happened, but there's a lot going on off the field, and I think that maybe had played a role in it. But I mean, we had a good thing when I was there, and so could we have kept on? You never know, but it's coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Coulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a great time, and I'm very happy that that Ant and Rob are back coaching that USL team. I think they're the guys that are very capable of leading a group of young players that need to develop and learn from good professionals, older pros like themselves, that also understand the style of play that Orlando City is all about, the methodology, like we talked about, that Adrian has implemented and put in place. I think it was a smart hire having those two guys, and I think it would have been nice to play with them that season again too. But that was just some good times spent with those guys, as well as everyone else along the way. So very thankful for my time there, and I'm excited to see kind of where things are going to go for them in the future.
All right, and I actually had one more. I'm sorry, I know you got to go, but this is really short. Chris Dustin on Twitter said his favorite moment of you was he remembers when you signed the camera after scoring a goal, and he wants to know, do you still sign camera lenses?
That's a funny story about that is Adrian got super pissed about that one. He did not like that at all. Because I think we were playing Wilmington, and that's funny. Austin Hiddle, the former video guy who's now with the Falcons, this guy's unbelievable. He's like all those cool videos that were ever put out the first couple of years. That was all him. The guy was like his genius with the camera stuff. So him and I had gotten the idea to do it, and we had actually gotten the idea to do it the year before, but it was so late on in the season. We actually had played Wilmington in the playoffs. He had it all set up to do it. But we were losing that game, and that was the game we eventually lost, where we got kind of upset and shocked at home in the semifinals. And so I'd scored late in the game, but we were still, I think we were down like 4-2 or something like that. So I couldn't obviously go do it then. But we were playing Wilmington, the following year, and I don't think I had scored at home yet, or I don't think it had been the right scenario to go do it. But this put us up 2-0 before halftime. So I remembered, I thought, okay, perfect, boom, go over, do it. Dom's face is one of the best parts of that video, and he couldn't believe it, because as we were running, I was so mad. He always had better celebrations than me, except my cargo. That was definitely better. And Dom, I was like, all right, Dom, watch this. I was like, come with me. And so he's running with me. He's probably thinking, where are we going? What are we doing? So we get over there, I sign it, and the look on his face when he does that is hilarious. And but then the worst part was we kicked off, and within a minute later, they went down and scored a goal, and to make it 2-1. So we went at halftime up 2-1. But Adrian was fuming. He comes in, what the hell, you guys? You think you want to go run around? You want to sign cameras and kiss babies and giving up a goal right after you do that, and we're tied after you do that, and I'm thinking in my head, no, Adrian, we're up 2-1, but we were up at the time 2-0, we were still winning, and but you don't argue with Adrian in halftime when he starts going off. You just sit there and you take it. You sit there and you just
Smile.
tuck your tail between your legs, right? Exactly. So it was funny. So he was super mad at me, and then the next week we played Colorado in the Open Cup, and he benched me. I think he didn't even play me, or I came on the last like 5 minutes of the game, and I don't think I played the next game after that either. I think he was really mad about it. So it was everyone always like, oh, it was the best, that was the best, and I was thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, actually, that one kind of bit me in the ass a little bit.
So would you sign one again or no?
No, I'm leaving it at that, man. That was fun. That was good fun. That was a good one.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. I know you got to get going to rehab, so good luck with the injury. Congratulations and good luck with the baby. Everybody out there who's going to watch this, I will be in the back of lot 10, front of lot 11, the supporters lot, doing fan TV after the game this week. I know it's been like 3 or 4 weeks since I've been out there. I got rained out last week. I'm really sorry, but I will be there for you guys this week. So, Jamie, thanks again. You want to say one more bye?
Yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. And if they make it over to do the fan TV, give me a shout, say hello. So I miss you guys. Good luck this weekend. I'll be watching, and hope my prediction comes true.
All right, there you have it. Peace out.